Okay, so I'm going to talk about temple preparation here, the sacredness or this of the LDS temple endowment and participation, and once again apply that, at least for a moment, to the situation where I cannot upload on live streaming thanks to what's going on with Haleigh Everts blocking my ability to live stream on YouTube due to her copyright infringement claim, which she has refused to talk with me about, or at least not acknowledged anything. So I'm going to do this on a different channel and see if that helps. Contact her. Maybe she blocked something someone suggested. So really important stuff having to do with the temple. Let's take a look at here. We'll go in Matthew chapter 5. Agree with thine adversary quickly, whilst thou art in the way with him, lest at any time thine adversary deliver thee to the judge, and the judge deliver thee to the officer, and thou shalt be cast into prison. Well, anyway, bottom line is, it's better to settle things outside of court, and I've been asking you, Haleigh, to go ahead and just contact me. So, you know, I replaced that video already with something that doesn't have you doing the talking, and it's probably not as nice, even though I'm getting way more views on it. You know, this also says that you need to, you know, leave your gift at the altar. In other words, don't go to the temple until you are settled up with people. Therefore, if thou bring thy gift to the altar, and there rememberest that thy brother hath aught against thee, leave there thy gift before the altar, and go thy way. First be reconciled to thy brother, and then come and offer thy gift. So there we are again. You know, go try to settle things up. How can you go before God? It's saying if you have a dispute that you possibly could handle. So I've offered multiple times to discuss this and try to work something out, and I've had no response. So you believe in the New Testament? Give it a shot. Okay, so let's get into sacred versus secret. The church has been real big on talking about it's sacred, not so much that it's secret. And the scriptures are going to tell us a lot about that. We're going to look right at it right now and look at forswearing ourselves in the temple. Alright, and again ye have heard it is said that, this is verse 33, Matthew 5:33. Again ye have heard that it hath been said by them of old time, thou shalt not forswear thyself, but thou shalt perform unto the Lord thine oaths. But I say unto you, swear not at all, neither by heaven, for it is God's throne, nor by the earth, for it is his footstool, neither by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great King. Neither shalt thou swear by thy head, because thou canst not make one hair white or black. But let your communication be yea, yea, or nay, nay, for whatsoever is more than these cometh of evil. Alright, so that's Matthew 5. Okay. Now let's take a look at James chapter 5. Go to verse 12. It says, but above all things, my brethren, swear not, neither by heaven, neither by the earth, neither by any other oath, but let your yea be yea, and your nay be nay, lest ye fall into condemnation. Got that? Don't swear. Period. That's what it says. Now let's look at Moses chapter 5. And Satan said unto Cain, swear unto me by thy throat, and if thou tell it, thou shalt die. And swear thy brethren by their heads and by the living God that they tell it not. For if they tell it, they shall surely die. And this that thy father may not know it, and this day will deliver thy brother Abel into thy hands. And Satan sware unto Cain that he would do according to his commands, and all these things were done in secret. Okay, so that's how they formed this secret combination. They swore by their throats an oath of secrecy. We saw in James and in Matthew that the Lord said not to do this, and I see comments all the time from Christians where Jesus says, I've not said anything in secret to you, and so forth. This is in John chapter 18. It says, Jesus answered him, I spake openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, whither the Jews always resort, and in secret have I said nothing. So in the video there, Haleigh mentions on her temple video how things are sacred, having to do with the temple, sacred. And the church is, she's just saying what the church says. They say this is sacred, it's not so much that it's secret, but it's sacred. What is sacred? She talked about the temple, but she said she didn't say anything sacred in her thing. What is it? And why do we hear it's sacred? Or what is it that's so secret? Well, it's Freemasonry. It is the signs and tokens, new names, keywords, and penalties of Freemasonry. That's what is secret. And yes, you are forswearing yourself, and yes, we used to swear ourselves by our throats. We would have to pantomime cutting our throats, cutting our necks, cutting our throats, slitting our throats, also cutting ourselves in half, plucking out our heart, and these are pantomiming the Masonic penalties for sharing their signs and tokens that Joseph Smith brought into the Endowment when he brought Luciferian Freemasonry into the Endowment. I've done other videos where we show their leaders talking about it's the religion of Masonry and that it's following Lucifer, and that Lucifer is the best God, better than Adonai, which means, Yahweh, the God that Mormons like to call Elohim, which just means the gods in Hebrew, but somebody thought it was a name or something. Anyway, so we see there that we're going exactly against the commandment to not forswear ourselves, not to swear by our heads, but in fact we followed the example that we have in chapter 5, that Joseph Smith translation of the Genesis, where it says that Cain swore by his throat. And that's exactly what he brought into the temple, swearing by your throat, when the Bible says absolutely don't do it. It said don't swear by your head, don't swear by Jerusalem, don't swear by the earth, don't swear by anything. But we swear by our throats, or we did. And, in Haleigh's video, of course, she participates in an endowment that no longer has that. After April of 1990, the endowment was changed once again, and we no longer had the pantomiming of the horrible ways of mutilating or murdering people who shared, exactly what the names of the tokens were and all that sort of a thing. The kinds of things that got William Morgan murdered for by the Freemasons. When he shared those things, he wrote a book, and he was murdered according to the sake of the oath by his brethren in Freemasonry, just like we find in Moses chapter 5, where I believe it's Lamech says he had to murder a young man for doing exactly the same thing. It's like Joseph Smith was writing about illuminated Freemasonry in the book of Moses. What's also interesting is that it was actually in 1829 that the Freemasons murdered Captain William Morgan, and then Joseph Smith wrote basically that story into the book of Moses chapter 5 about a year later, 1830, 1831, when he did that. Yeah, that translation, the inspired version of the Bible. And then it was a few years later that he hooked up with William Morgan's widow. Of course, she was remarried. She was Sister Harris, Mrs. Harris, and she and her husband joined the church, but according to Sister Harris, that didn't prevent her from becoming one of Joseph Smith's mistresses, which she told to Sarah Pratt. She said, "I've been his mistress for 4 years." Yeah. So I don't know why you don't do it. It's just great. And talked about things like that in the Book of Mormon, especially in Ether chapter 8. But then he brings those secret combinations right into the temple, not to mention having the Danites, which, you know, swore to do anything that the First Presidency said, not accepting, you know, treason and murder. So, how sacred is that? It's a satanic thing. You know, these murder oaths are demonic, and it's so states right in the LDS scriptures, and yet Joseph Smith brings that in the temple, and poor Haleigh thinks that's sacred because that's what she's been told. That's what we're all told. You know, you get the new name. When you go in, don't tell anyone your new name, right? But, you know, maybe you think it's a revelation from God. But today's new names are, you know, Eliza for girls and Moroni for guys. October 21st. It's not a revelation from God. You can catch that like on Temple Name Oracle. So if you thought it was holy, sorry, it wasn't. Anyway, things aren't what you've been told at church a lot of times. And I hope that clears some things up for sacred versus secret, satanic versus not satanic. And watch the other videos on the Luciferian nature of the endowment and the Luciferian teachings that have been in it, and some that still are, and that are in the Book of Mormon that most people don't recognize if they don't know what Luciferian doctrine is. And a lot of the Luciferian doctrine sounds pretty nice, actually. I like Mormon doctrine that's Luciferian and Swedenborgian. It's good doctrine. I mean, who doesn't want to progress? It's like, you know, being able to progress, do things, and improve. What's wrong with that? But, you know, or everything having their opposite. I really don't like that part, you know, having to have opposition in all things. But that's preached in Alma, and that's preached, you know, in Morals and Dogma. It's right out of the Luciferian teachings, and Albert Pike shares that with us in his largest book out of Freemasonry. So I'll leave it at that. And Haleigh, I'd like it if you'd just contact me and we'd get things kind of worked out here without escalating to something like that's court-like, for me to be able to upload YouTube stuff on my live version. And if you think something I've done is a copyright violation, I don't even need that video. Like I said, I'm doing better with another one, even though you're not even talking on it, which I think is weird, because I think, you know, you get more referrals from people seeing you who go to your channel from mine, as they say that they do, because they get interested to see what you have to say, and it's better for you to say it than for me. So contact me, will ya? Let's just work it out friendly like, huh? I'm easy to talk to. Have a great day. Don't forswear yourselves, people. Watch the other videos. It's secret for a reason, because the Luciferian Freemasons are a secret combination. That's why. Dodger game out. Oh, this is going on the Mormon Truth channel, isn't it? So that I can try to get through to her. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff.